thick skin.
Well, if you're on a show, chances are I'm gonna love it. You know, we've talked so much about Ugly Betty and Goosebumps and Love Victor, but like I gotta say, Devious Maids. I
Oh,
mean,
loved. Loved. I mean, look, that one's like pretty close to a housewife situation.
it is.
You
I
know, there
mean,
was drama and sex and craziness.
when you get a call, I don't know if you had to audition or regardless, but like when you get a call and it's like Mark, and I don't know what point you got involved, but like when you hear like Mark Cherry and Eva Longoria, I mean, is stuff like that just like yes and we'll figure it out later?
Pretty much. I mean, Eva was like, you have to do this. You know, like this is gonna be it. We're gonna, this is gonna be so exciting. 5 female Latin women leading a show, Mark Cherry writing it, like, and for me, first of all, I'd follow Eva to the moon, honestly. You know what I mean? If whatever idea she has, I'm like, yes, let's do it. Because she comes from a place of such like, first of all, just such joy and love and kindness that like that you never feel like you're gonna, there's just a lot of trust there in that relationship, and she's earned it in spades. But so yeah, I mean, and then to be in like a novela with like my best girlfriends, because I've known these women, we've all been in this business for 1,000 years, you know what I mean? Like Judy Reyes is one of my best friends forever. So, and then to work with Rosalind, iconic. Dania, to me, it was just like, yeah, oh God, yeah, let's do this. And like, who doesn't love a good telenovela? It's just so fun.
We have some murder again, lighthearted it's just such a. Did you? And I know most of her scenes are with Judy Reyes. I watched it all, but it all blends together for me. So I don't know how many scenes you have with her, but what was it like to work with Susan Lucci?
I mean, she is the nicest, sweetest, kindest, she's a teeny person. You could put her in your pocket. But she is just a powerhouse. And she's like, it's like, I imagine what it would be like meeting Dolly Parton. Like everybody says how cool she is and how nice she is and how down to earth she is, Dolly. And I think, you know, Susan is the same way. And talk about, that was another person. Like I completely lost my brain when I met her. I think I like broke. I was like, I mean, I grew up watching All My Children my whole life. My aunts would tape it with a VCR, and we would come home and watch it after school. Um, but she's funny as you can't even believe. And she's just the sweetest lady ever. And she's always down to hang and gossip and have some fun.
Same here. I've had her on this podcast, and she wasn't. It was like a friend of a. It was a whole thing, and it shouldn't have happened. She had nothing to promote, but it did, and the stars aligned, and it was on video, and it just. She was. It was everything. Yes.
She's the greatest.
It was everything.
Yeah.
Well, what about that? You know, Mark Cherry has laid out recently his clear plan if there was a Desperate Housewives reboot. Like, was there been any talk with you and all your best friends for a Devious Maids reboot?
Oh, we all want to do it for sure. I mean, absolutely. But obviously we would have to wait until after the Desperate Housewives reboot. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, I've been so lucky. Like all of these casts that I worked with, these great ensemble casts, we've really all gotten along, and we all loved our experience and our characters, and sort of that, it was a really, now actually more than ever it might be fun to do, because we're living in such a time of like, the upper crust, and sort of the working class heart, and I think that would be really fun to revisit, and sort of, it's always fun to watch those people get their comeuppance.
Yeah, and it's like a different world we live in now, and the stories are just endless, right? It could be endless.
Absolutely.
Where do you think Hilda from Ugly Betty is today? Where is Hilda Suarez?
Oh my God, I always think about this because we're always thinking about doing the reboot. I think she's married. I think she has a salon that's like not inside her house. I think she has like a brick and mortar salon. I think she's kind of the queen of her little neighborhood in Queens. And I think she's looking to expand. I think she's she's, her husband's, I think Mark, her son, Justin, rather, I should say, I think he's probably working at Mode. And so she's probably trying to, still trying to finagle a way to get some of that, clout, chasing that Mode clout off of.
Justin is high up at Mode, of
That's
course.
right. For sure, for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think that possibilities are endless of like where all these characters can go. But man, it's so funny. Making me, I just literally dreamt about Hilda last night. Is that weird? Like
That
it
is,
just came to me. So bananas.
and Marisol from Devious Maids, maybe
Oh.
is she still in the same area working? Like, what is she up to?
I mean, the thing is that the cliffhanger was that Marisol gets kidnapped. And so I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like, did she, I don't know. Maybe I feel like Marisol has to get a little bit more devious. So maybe she planned her own kidnapping, we find out. And like, I don't know. Like, she needs, I think she needs to get a little more devious. So maybe it's that.
Maybe that's where it starts. Like she's just getting out of being kidnapped, if
Yes.
she was really kidnapped or something. As we kind of wind down and wrap up, two things I just want to say. The first time I was ever exposed to you was on Kristen. So just a shout out to Kristen. And Whiskey Cavalier. Let me tell you something about Whiskey
Um,
Cavalier.
let
Gone
me,
before its time.
that was a heartbreak when we couldn't come back for that. I think more than anything, that was a heartbreak for me. I
Because it
love
was
Scott Foley. He's one of my best friends on the planet. That whole cast was amazing. We got to live in Prague shooting that show. I got to run and shoot guns, man. It was, oh,
It
yeah.
was great. Well, bringing it back to Goosebumps for our last question, you mentioned earlier, like, Latina, it's like what if Latinas, it's one of the biggest demographics of who watches horror. And, thinking of reading these books, you never really define, like race was really never a thing, or like you just didn't know. It was all so. I think it is great that you are in a project like Goosebumps. Now we just don't think of these things. And it was such a big deal at the time. I know because there were so many articles on it, but like, did you appreciate what a breakout thing Ugly Betty was? Because like it really, that was the time of also like Shondaland and like Grey's
Mhm.
Anatomy was just, so that really did with Ugly Betty to me change the TV landscape. Obviously, we all knew what was happening. I know there were a lot of interviews at the time on it and a lot of magazine covers, but you know what I mean? In retrospect, when you mention this, right, like you're in Goose, it's just the world is open to everyone. I mean, we still have
Right.
a long way to go. Don't get me even started. That's a whole nother podcast. But
Sure,
like,
sure.
do you have a different like retrospect, like when you look back, like almost like a greater appreciation, or no, you really understood what was happening at the time?
I think we definitely understood what was happening at the time. I think we definitely felt the weight of that, and also like the privilege of that as well. Yeah, it was so exciting. And I think I remember America in an interview saying, like, I just want it to, like, because we did get asked that question, like, well, what's it like? Do you feel the pressure of like having the first Latin family, having a show centered around? And she was like, I'm really looking forward to the time when the show is just about a girl and it's not about a Latin girl. Like, there's the fact that I am Latin is irrelevant, and I remember her saying that in an interview. And the thing about what, full circle moment with Goosebumps, there's another young actress called Galilea who's brilliant, an amazing young Argentinian girl. And we were looking at each other like, our characters they weren't Latin on the page, in other words, right? Like, it just was, she was the right person for this role and I was the right person for this role, and we brought our sabor to it, right? We brought our flavor to it. And Galilea then was sort of, the creators came to her and said, hey, you're Argentinian. Can you maybe do this scene in Spanish? Can we have it, and she was able to bring that to the thing, so it's like, now it's an asset, whereas before it was sort of like a tokenism, and now it's like,
Mhm.
oh wait, this can really bring us up a notch, you know. So yeah, I think it's amazing to just be able to be an actor who's right for the role. And you just happen to be like a fly Puerto Rican lady.
That's what I meant. It's just you bring it to the role and it's great. So, well, I have loved you at everything. I've loved watching you on Goosebumps. This is great. Putting out for Real Housewives in the future and Ugly Betty and all these reboots, but everyone does need to check out Goosebumps. It's amazing. I loved every second of it.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime. I really appreciate you and Disney and everyone taking the time and making the time for me. So I really appreciate this too. Awesome. Have a